Hi again. Samuel Andrews, again in his chapter on modern pantheistic philosophy, he's just dealt with Hegel, before that with Spinoza, Fichte, and Schelling. Now he's dealing with evolutionary philosophy, and specifically Herbert Spencer. Of this philosophy, that is evolutionary philosophy, Herbert Spencer is the chief representative. He must be classed among the agnostics as affirming that no definite conception of the infinite or absolute is possible. For a personal God, he substitutes a force or energy, which he calls the unknowable, but of which he says we have a dim but positive consciousness. We know it to exist, or to be a reality, the first cause of all, the source of power, in a word, an infinite and eternal energy by which all things are created and sustained. Yet he tells us also that it is utterly inscrutable, absolutely incomprehensible, and forever inconceivable. Those are all his phrases, that is Spencer's phrases. In what relation does this energy stand to the universe? It is its cause. There has been no act of creation, but an eternal evolutionary process, passing in endless cycles from, quote, the imperceptible to the perceptible, and back again from the perceptible to the imperceptible, end of quote. The law of this process is the continuous redistribution of matter and motion. Nothing that exists can be other than it is. All life, intellectual and moral, as well as animal, comes under this law. We are here concerned with this philosophy only as it bears upon religion. Having substituted for a personal God an infinite and eternal energy, can we worship it? Mr. Spencer thinks that the feeling of wonder and awe which it inspires is worship. It has indeed no positive attributes. It is not good or wise or merciful or just. It is merely a force working unconsciously and blindly. But we are told that this is better than the Christian God, and that if we cannot pray to it or bow down in worship, we can fear and wonder as we behold its mighty workings in the universe. It is apparent that belief in such a dynamic force can have no more practical bearing upon the moral conduct of life than the belief in gravitation. It has in it no religious element. It not only denies the personality of God, but the personality of man also, and presents to us God, nature, and man as under a process of evolution which has neither beginning nor end. For immortality there is no place. Man, being only one of the forms of expression of the universal energy, has no free will and no moral responsibility. It need not be said that with this philosophy, revealed religion has no possible points of contact, and least of all has Christianity. Of the Hegelian philosophy, a recent writer says, quote, in itself it is unmixed anthropotheism, not the exaltation of a creature into the place of God, but the assertion that the creature is the sole and essential God. Alas, herein lies its bad excellence, that while utterly expunging from creation as a popular representation a present deity, while rejecting an incarnate Savior, an indwelling spirit, an inspired record, a coming day of judgment, its subtlety is such that there is no point of Christian verity, no office of the adorable Trinity, no text of Holy Writ, for which it has not an appropriate niche in its temple of lies. It contradicts nothing, it stultifies everything. It confounds, neutralizes, and eliminates all objects of present faith. It is the first truly philosophical system which, denying the life to come, eternalizes or eternizes the present. The thought of man is the fountain, the judgment of man is the judge of all things, and man, though as an individual born and mortal, is as man the eternal essence. End of quote. Another writer, a German, says of it that it is, quote, a paganism dressed up anew and sublime to a self-adoring worship of mind. And another recent writer, Professor Wenley, in his Contemporary Theology and Theism, says, quote, the warring of the pantheistic and monotheistic tendencies, both implicitly present in Hegel, ended, unfortunately, in a complete victory for the former, that is, pantheism. In examining the anti-Christian influences now at work, we find the current pantheistic philosophy the most fundamental and powerful. Beginning with the century that is the 19th century, it has now penetrated all regions of human thought. Theology, literature, science, art, all bear its impress. Its growing influence has been often noted. It is said by John Stuart Mill, quote, "The philosophical writings of Schelling and Hegel have given pantheistic principles a complacent admission and a currency which they never before this age possessed in any part of Christendom." End of quote. And Buchanan, in 1857, says, quote, "The grand ultimate struggle between Christianity and atheism will resolve itself into a controversy between Christianity and pantheism." And Saisset, that is Saisset, in 1863, speaks of pantheism as having made and daily making the most alarming progress. This is the beginning and end of German philosophy. It begins with skepticism, it ends with pantheism. And it is said by E. Caird in 1883, "In the scientific life of Germany there is no greater power at present than Hegelianism, especially in all that relates to metaphysics, and thus to the philosophy and history of religion." And Fairbairn observes in his Place of Christ in Modern Thought, "It were mere folly to attempt to understand modern movements in theology without Hegel, especially those that circle around the history of Christ." Christlieb, in his book Modern Doubt, he says Fichte and Schelling made the idea of divine personality to be absorbed in an all-confounding idealistic pantheism, which received from Hegel its last development. This philosophy appears in German literature from Schiller to Heine. Hence, we meet at the present day so many educated persons whose faith in a personal deity has resolved itself into faith in the moral order of the universe, or in some universal law or principle. End of quote. But no proof need be given of what is universally confessed. A mighty wave of pantheism, beginning in Germany, has been sweeping over Christendom during the present century, and now finds but little to resist it. As Greek philosophy developed when the popular religions were in a process of disintegration, so it is now. It was then an attempt to replace the old faith by a new philosophic religion. So today, Christianity, being regarded in many quarters as incapable of giving a satisfactory theory of the world and of human life, philosophy steps in and undertakes the task. It will give us a new religion based upon a new conception of God, a new Christianity based upon a new conception of Christ, a universe evolved, not created. How far the new will supplant the old, time only can show us, for we do not know how far faith in the Christian creeds has been silently undermined. But Christianity meets a new enemy, a philosophic religion which boasts itself able to satisfy, as Christianity is not able to do, all the demands of the intellect. A religion more suitable to our advanced culture than one transmitted from an ancient and half-civilized people. It is a religion which many will gladly welcome, for it opens a wide gate and a broad way in which all men of whatever race or belief may walk without jostling one another. And of course, 2 world wars and a lot of other 20th century history have reversed the trend, now back to fundamentalist religion. And war of cultures, indeed. The Western culture, which in those days was so progressive and optimistic, is being challenged on all fronts. I'll put in a link to When the New Age Gets Old. This is someone brought up in the context of Hinduism, Vishal Mangalwadi, talking about when the New Age gets old. That's the end of the chapter on modern pantheistic philosophy. And next time it's modern philosophy and the new Christianity. See you next time.